Greg and Sarah, welcome.
Start video.
Yeah, hello. And Dawn, thank you. Thank you
Hi.
for coming. Great background. Teresa,
Hi.
hi.
With my Tootsie Pop.
That's great. Great. We'll just give people another minute or so to come in, and then we'll get started with our special guest. Maybe I'll just get started because Judith's had a long week, and
Mm.
we're so happy that Judith could come. Tonight, Judith Enck, who's our colleague, the founder of Beyond Plastics. And Judith, welcome, and thanks for being here to welcome us tonight.
Thanks for inviting me. Hi, everyone. I'm Judith Enck. I'm the president and founder of Beyond Plastics, and I've not had a long week. It's only Tuesday, and I'm very happy to be here in fellowship with all of you. And Um, if you haven't seen the breaking news, President Trump has pulled back on his threats to attack Iran tonight. So don't worry about that for the training. It was very nice that this was announced right before the training was starting. And so don't worry about that tonight because I'm sure people would be checking their news feeds. You do have to worry about it in 2 weeks, but there's a 2 week reprieve. Um, I'm really honored to be on. Hey, Suzette or Rebecca, do you want to change so we don't have Candace's living room as the center here? But I'm really honored to be here with Rebecca Martin and Suzette Munley. My not that I want it to be all about me. I just, maybe she didn't clean her living room or something. But it is such an honor to work with Rebecca and Suzette, who are two of the best in the biz, who work every day with us at Beyond Plastics to build the grassroots movement against plastic pollution from the bottom up. I have a fair amount of experience in advocacy world, also in New York State government, and I served as EPA regional administrator during the Obama administration. And what I've learned over the years is it's not enough just to have the facts. You have to marry that with a community engagement organizing strategy. So we bring the facts to decision makers and work for change. So that's why a couple years into the establishment of Beyond Plastics, we started something called local groups and affiliates. If you are active in a local group and you want to work on plastics in collaboration with Beyond Plastics and others, you can be an affiliate of Beyond Plastics. It's pretty easy. If you are not plugged in with a local group, you can become um, a Beyond Plastics local group rather than an affiliate. And the rules are pretty straightforward. 3 people or more can form a local Beyond Plastics groups. So we have Beyond Plastics Brooklyn, Beyond Plastics Brookline, Beyond Plastics Fort Collins in Colorado. You get a cool logo, you get access to all our training and support. And you really have to be 3 people or more because if you can't get 2 other people to work with you, you're probably not going to get anything done. You have to work with others to accomplish change. So Beyond Plastics was formed 6, 7 years ago. Um, and I was interested in working on plastics, but couldn't find an existing national group that was really prioritizing it. There are a lot of wonderful national environmental groups that were just starting to get active on plastic, but it wasn't it wasn't like it was today. I'm really pleased that more and more national groups are tackling plastics, but 6 years ago, that wasn't the case. So even though I don't love starting new groups, I started a new group because I felt like there was an unmet need. So we know that this is not easy work. We know right now we are in a moment in history where there are a lot of important issues that are on your mind that you want to be active on, and you should be. But we're urging folks to get engaged on plastics because the problem is getting worse. And we can't take a couple years off waiting for our international political scene to stabilize. A few nights ago, I was really happy to hear my friend Bill McKibben, who works on climate change issues, speak in my community. And he made the point that at the current rate, solar and wind will replace fossil fuel in 20 to 30 years. And on climate change, we don't have 20 to 30 years. And it's the same thing with plastics. We need to pick up the pace and have less plastics in our lives. Many of you are familiar faces, some of you are new friends, so I'm not going to go into great depth, but the great thing about the plastic issue is it touches so many things that the public deeply cares about. Plastics is an ocean issue, it's an environmental justice issue, it's definitely a climate change issue, it's a health issue, and it's a deception issue because the fossil fuel and chemical industry has tried to deceive the public for decades that you don't have to worry about all the plastic you generate. You can just recycle it all. But we know that the plastic recycling rate is only 5 to 6%, and most plastics just do not get recycled. So here's the good news. You have found your grouping. You have found your cohort of people here tonight. Um, you can access information from us. At the end of this training, you're going to receive your very own copy of our relatively new plastics pocket guide, which is what it sounds like, just the latest detailed information on plastics at your fingertips. You can see over my shoulder our new book, The Problem with Plastic, that I co-authored with Adam Mahoney and other colleagues at Beyond Plastics. um, get the book, get the book for your library. We wrote the book for you personally, because I had so many scattered PDFs all over the place. And we've put everything in one book with really good footnotes. So if anyone questions anything you're saying, you just go to the footnotes at the back of the book. I am a footnote nerd, so everything is documented. And then, lucky for you, you are working on this issue at a time when we have a new tool available to us. And that is the new movie that just came out on Netflix called The Plastic Detox, which I urge everyone to please watch as soon as you can. It'll be on Netflix forever, but watch it. And my guess is you're going to be very moved by the work of scientist Dr. Shauna Swan, who advises couples that are having difficulty conceiving a child and how plastics may or may not affect that. Um, and if you are so inclined, we urge you to organize a community screening in a local school, community center, faith center. And if you go to the Beyond Plastics website, you will see a toolkit, everything you need to know to do a screening. And Rebecca, maybe at the end we can share the toolkit with everyone. So there's a lot to do, and there are some really, truly wonderful people doing work. You do not have to reinvent the wheel. Since it's on Netflix, some people will actually come because we urge you to organize a short panel after the screening. One of the problem with environmental movies like this is people see it and then they're like, oh no, what do we do? And so if you organize a community screening and have a panel afterwards, people will um, share ideas on what we can do together to tackle the problem. So I just want to leave you with a quote that I rely on a lot these days with everything going on in the world. I leave you with these inspired words from Rabbi Tarfon, who wrote these words centuries ago. Do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. Do justly now, love mercy now, walk humbly now, You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it. So, with those words, I leave you in the hands of Rebecca and Suzette, who can help guide you, can answer questions, and we're just very really truly grateful that you're jumping in on this issue because we need all hands on deck. And while I always emphasize that we encourage you to work in groups, this is also an issue where one person can make a real difference. So thanks everyone. Have a great training. Good night.
Thank you, Judith, as always, for being inspiring to us all. Great. I'm going to pull up our slide deck, but just first, if you have AI taking notes, if you don't mind turning it off, that would be great. We're going to provide you with all of the materials, a condensum of the slide presentation. So that would really be great if you don't mind doing that. Um, so I'll pull up our deck. I just want to make sure you can see.
Yep, we can see.
And is it moving?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. All right. All right. Well, I just before we begin, I feel like it's important just to acknowledge um, that we're meeting during a really difficult and uncertain national moment, and many of us are feeling um, or maybe feeling distracted or overwhelmed or worried, and that's of course understandable. And so we want to encourage you to take care of yourself tonight. If you need to step away or check your phone, even though we encourage phones to be thrown out the window during these trainings, but whatever you need to do, step away, take a breath. It's absolutely okay to do that. And we really appreciate you being here with us and showing up for your community. So thank you. Um, and so we're going to get into this now. We're going to share with you a presentation, the Grassroots Advocacy Training, Building the Foundation from Local Action to Lasting Change. This is a training by Beyond Plastics, and I'm going to walk you through the first hour, and then I'm joined by my colleague Suzette Munley, who's the National Community Engagement Director, and I'll introduce myself in a little bit. Um, Okay, so we'll start with our mission here. So Beyond Plastics launched in 2019 at Bennington College, and the organization unites the expertise of environmental policy with the creativity and energy of grassroots advocacy. So it's very unique in that way, and in order to build a powerful movement to end plastic pollution. Our mission isn't ambitious, but it's what needs to be done, and it's achievable, which is to end plastic pollution everywhere. So before we dive in, a little housekeeping. This session is being recorded so that we can share it with you later on. And our chat function will be on throughout our time together, although Suzette might go in and out, but just to say we want you all to have a chance to connect, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But we would ask that you don't use chat during the presentations if possible, in order to encourage listening and to avoid distractions. Please silence or turn off your phone or throw it out the window or not, whatever you want to do tonight. But I'm very happy to be with you here presently. And if any questions come up, um, write them down. There's going to be a lot of time between both sessions for question and answer breaks, so we'll definitely take your questions and all of them, hopefully all of them before we go tonight. If you're comfortable, we encourage you to be on camera so that we can see you and you can fully participate. We're on Zoom, but pretend we're at my kitchen table. That's the goal here. So, but if you're not comfortable, you can stay off camera. That's fine. And following the training, we'll send out the recording the PDF of the presentation and all of the resources that we'll share throughout the evening in order for you to revisit them anytime following the training. Um, yeah, yep, those are all the materials. So they're all going to come to you, maybe not tonight, but definitely tomorrow. All right, so my name's Rebecca Martin. I'm the Director of Community Partnerships and Training at Beyond Plastics. I'm originally from the state of Maine, born and raised, but now I live in the city of Kingston on the banks of the Hudson River. And for more than 20 years, I've organized at the grassroots level here in the Hudson Valley, helping communities, not just mine, but our regional communities, engage on environmental threats that have come along the line. And we've written lots of laws and changed lots of laws to create lasting change from the ground up. So it's a real privilege for me to work at Beyond Plastics and to be able to share the practical tools and strategies that I've learned over the years. And so, whether you're new to organizing or you've been at it for a long time, this training is really geared for everybody to learn something, if not a lot, this evening. And so, with that, I've just introduced myself. It would be great to see who is in the room. So, the chat's going to come on, and similar to what I just did. So, your name, where you live, your municipality, and the state that you're in. If you want to just put it in the chat. And I think it's also good for you all to take note of who's here, just in case they live nearby or they're in the same state. This is important, and we'll talk about that a little later on. I can't see you because I'm sharing my screen, but Suzette, can you read who's here tonight?
Sure. We have Los Angeles, Fort Myers, Florida, Baltimore, Albany, New York, Wisconsin, New York, California, New Hampshire, San Diego, Corning, New York, Port Washington, New York, Grosse Pointe Farms, Michigan, Bloomfield, Connecticut, another Los Angeles, Minnesota, North Carolina, LA, Arizona, Connecticut. A lot of Los Angeles here tonight. It's nice to see. Indiana, Capital District of New York, Snoqualmie Pass, Washington. That's fun. Lower Makefield Township in PA, Newtown, Connecticut.
Is it empty?
Massachusetts, Long Island, New York.
Wow. Wow, that's great. Thank you for coming. And we don't have anybody from overseas tonight, but it's always just good to remind folks that the training is actually designed for participants in the United States, where Beyond Plastics has extensive experience with policy and policy change. But of course, we welcome people from wherever they are all over the world. And um, yeah, and we can only not help you because we don't know the regulatory process and systems outside of the US. Anyway, thank you. All right, so let's begin by identifying our goal this evening. As every community is different and every organizer has their own style of working, I'll be outlining steps that are relevant to all of us working as organizers in our communities that are very broad. Um, Beyond Plastics Grassroots Advocacy training aims to build the collective power that's needed to pass meaningful laws. Everyone has a vital role to play as an organizer, speakers, professionals, advocates, bakers, barkers, babysitters. It's why it takes a village, and every contribution is important to the cause. During this 2 hour session, we'll outline key organizing steps and introduce you to the new Beyond Plastics Network that's ready for you when you're ready to join. The network provides ongoing support, active learning, proven strategies, and tactics alongside dedicated individuals working in other communities on plastic pollution across the United States. So it's a really inspiring group to be in the midst of. where you get to hear their work and what they're doing and what challenges they face and listen to the sharing that goes on to help one another to get over the hump. So, Beyond Plastics is part of a movement. Judith touched upon this a little bit. And so, I want to give you just a quick overview of the field that you're all entering into and where Beyond Plastics fits in. Right now, there's a growing conversation in society about plastics, and public opinion is shifting. So, it's a very important time to be doing this work. And no one except for the petrochemical industry is asking for more single-use plastics. And there are many organizations, here's some of them, working to end plastic pollution. Each of them bring their own unique approach to the movement. And Beyond Plastics is a part of this broad network and a member of the Global Break Free from Plastics Coalition. So when you join Beyond Plastics Network, you become a part of this movement. And the reason this movement exists is because of the scale and size of the plastic crisis that we're facing. So the plastic crisis, just a couple of slides to kind of lead us into where we need to go. So when we talk about the plastic crisis, we're talking about how much plastic has taken over our world. And starting in and around 1950, plastic production exploded here. And since the 1950s, our population has tripled, but plastic production has increased by almost 230 times. And we've produced almost 10 billion tons of plastic. And the problem is that all of the plastic still exists in some form of pollution. It may be floating out in the ocean or piling up in landfills or breaking up into microplastics that move through the environment. But the good news is that this is it's a relatively new problem, in fact, and half of all the plastics has been produced in the last 15 to 20 years. So that's well within our lifetimes. And that means that the problem is solvable. It just requires political will and imagination. But we need to act now because this problem is growing. And global plastic production is predicted to continue increasing at this pace, nearly doubling again in 2040. So, how did we get here? Plastic really started out as a miracle material. It was cheap, lightweight, and incredibly durable. So, production ramped up during World War II because plastic was extremely useful. Nylon replaced silk for parachutes. Uniforms shifted from wool to polyester and vinyl. And after the war, the plastics industry needed new markets. So it pushed plastic into everyday home life. And here's a Life magazine cover that actually celebrated the wonder of throwaway living. And over time, this has led to the misuse of plastic that we see today. Despite being designed to last, we use plastic for single-use disposable items. And in fact, plastic packaging now makes up the largest sector of plastic use. The plastic is damaging our environment and ourselves. And this is a famous image here of an albatross where you can see the overwhelming amount of plastic it has ingested. So, what are plastics made of? And all of this leads us up to recycling. And this is so important to be aware of here that they're created using fossil fuels and combined with chemicals. And these chemicals give plastic certain qualities, things like flexibility and durability, their color, and resistance to heat. So when you start looking at these chemicals, you quickly realize just how large and complex the issue really is. And there are a lot of them, a lot of chemicals. There's more than 16,000 different chemicals that are found in plastics. So some help form the plastic backbone itself. Some are unintentional byproducts of the chemistry, and many are added intentionally. The intentional added chemicals are called additives, and they give plastics the kind of properties that we just talked about. The concerning part of is that about 25% of these chemicals are known to be hazardous to human health and the environment. And for about two-thirds of them, there is no publicly available safety data. That lack of transparency makes it difficult for consumers, scientists, policymakers to make informed decisions. So, the precautionary principle, some of you may be familiar with it, some of you may not. But in the United States, we don't have a precautionary principle. And chemical regulation often places the burden of proof on those that are harmed and not on the companies producing the chemicals. So the precautionary principle is putting the burden of proof on the maker of a chemical in this case before it's put into products and released into the market for the public to consume and to throw away. And what this does is allows harmful substances like PFAS to enter the environment without any proven safety. So the precautionary principle offers a better safe than sorry approach, and it requires industries to prove chemicals are safe before release and prioritizing health and communities over profits. And adopting the principle nationally would likely require action by Congress, which is a daunting task. However, communities and states, and here's a example, can take meaningful steps, such as adopting procurement policies that restrict hazardous cleaning products, for example, and chemicals, making safer purchasing choices for public buildings, schools, and workplaces. So it's advocacy. It helps us to put the idea of precautionary principle on the table for discussion. All right, so where does all the plastic go in the United States? We're not going to have time to dig into each waste pathway, but here's the big picture for the United States. So a large portion of plastics goes to landfills. Some are incinerated, which brings its own environmental and health impacts, and a significant amount, up to 5 billion pounds, leaks into the environment. And ends up in waterways, in oceans, and wildlife. Beyond Plastics has published a report that estimates that the true plastics recycling rate in the United States never enters double digits, at only about 5 or 6%. So take a moment and think about the plastic in your daily life or what you see around you. And you might have a bright orange plastic detergent bottle, a black plastic takeout container in your refrigerator, or a plastic bag sitting on your counter, or bananas wrapped in plastic. But all of these plastics are very different. Everything from material types, the shape, their size, their structure, like a layered chip bag, for instance, affects how plastic is recycled. So in order to be recycled, a facility has to separate everything. And this is exactly why recycling doesn't work for most plastics. And unlike paper or tin, which are single materials made of single products and can be recycled indefinitely, different modern day plastics are made with different mixes of chemicals, colors, and additives, making them impossible to sort and recycle. So, what can we do to fight the plastic crisis? First, we need to recognize and avoid false solutions. So, ideas that sound good but don't actually solve the problem. One of the biggest misconceptions is that we can simply recycle our way out of this. And unfortunately, plastic recycling has been an abysmal failure. So, as we've discussed, plastics are made from many different materials and chemical mixtures, making them inherently difficult and often impossible to recycle. Um, Furthermore, recycling plastic is very expensive, it's polluting, and it only works for a small fraction of plastics, ones and twos to be exact. So the way forward is to organize in our communities to pass laws that stop single-use plastics at the source. Laws change the rules of the game, and when the rules change, behavior changes. And that's why we're gathered here today. This is a crucial moment, and I'm glad that Beyond Plastics is 6 years in, 7 years in, to meet the moment, to start organizing and to stay organizing. Big change starts small, and often right in our own communities where we live and vote. Our local officials, they're our neighbors, they're accountable to you, to us. And making community level action is really one of the most powerful ways to create change. And at this point in time in our history, this is perhaps one of the most important works we can do is becoming more civically engaged in our local communities. But to pass laws, we need to understand how our government works, and that means becoming more familiar with civics, and how decisions are made, who makes them, and how communities can influence them. Um, we like to share this. This is a good kind of right setting to getting into talking about passing laws, and it's beyond plastics theory of change. And it shows us why passing laws is the most effective way to end plastic pollution. So change often starts with individual actions, like when we start using a reusable mug or reducing waste at home or composting. And these steps matter, but building awareness and momentum for building awareness and momentum, um, but the and also the personal commitment that certainly inspires others, our families and our friends. But individual actions alone can't solve this problem, can't solve a problem this large. And so to create lasting impact, individual efforts must grow into collective action. And that's where advocacy comes in. Real, enduring progress depends on systemic solutions that are policies, that are laws, that make sustainable choice the norm. And that's why Beyond Plastic focuses on policy level actions, such as banning single-use plastics, plastic bags, or requiring reusable dishware in public programs. So individual change sparks the movement, but it's systemic change through passing laws that sustains it. So this is why it works. I know because I've been doing it every day for the last 20 years, and my personal journey in community organizing began decades ago with a local neighborhood issue that brought my neighbors and me together. Through regular meetings, we built trust, we built community, we built communications, and a shared purpose, and all of which proved invaluable when a national water bottling company attempted to purchase 1.75 million gallons of our municipal drinking water supply. And because together we understood where to go within our local government to get our concerns on the table and to identify legislative opportunities, we were able to mobilize quickly and stop the sale with this national bottling company within 5 months. We were also successful in changing our local water powers law through a referendum. It took about a year, adding important protections for our drinking water supply. And the vote ended up being a historic vote where more people came out to vote for water protections than they did that year for the mayoral race. And this really shaped the path that I'm on today. And although I work professionally in this field, I continue to volunteer in my community through kingstoncitizens.org. Um, and we engage in a whole range of civic initiatives. And I invite you to take a look at kingstoncitizens.org. You can see what the residents, the community members have accomplished, and the campaigns that we've worked on that sometimes stemmed many years. And the work inspired others in our local area to create their own platforms that inspired transparency in government. It's nonpartisan. And they're all very successful in their communities and they've done great things. And it's exactly what Beyond Plastics is doing with their local groups and affiliates through the network in building chap well, we don't call them chapters, but they're chapters, Beyond Plastic chapters, where you form your groups and you have all the support to help you succeed in your work to stop single-use plastics. Just going to take a quick pause. You all okay? This is a lot. Is the speed okay? Is it too fast or too slow? You all right? I
Yes,
see some peeps.
it's good.
Good. Okay. Just checking in. If we were at the table, I wouldn't talk this much. Okay. So I'm going to bring us really deep into local for a minute and talk about the commons and our civic responsibility. I think it's good to get grounded there in our sense of place and our role in community organizing and advocacy by reflecting on the commons. Some of you may know the term, some of you may not. So let's dive into that, to the commons here. So the commons are the shared resources that we all depend on, things like clean air, clean water, public spaces, community health. These resources aren't just available to us today. And to call them resources is sort of an understatement, but we will call them that for now, because they're not just ours, right? We're part of the environment, we're part of nature. The things that we have to sustain life sustains life for everyone and everything. And so caring for the commons is our civic responsibility as community members. And we have to protect what sustains us and our environment and make sure that these resources remain accessible and healthy, not just for us, but for generations to come. And so for democracy to thrive, good government requires laws and policies, whether they exist, whether they're being updated or newly created, that protect the most vulnerable and uphold equality. Um, when we protect the most vulnerable, everyone is protected. And so that should always be our goal. And without protections, there is nothing to prevent harm or exploitation. So some of the threats to our commons include neglect and underinvestment in public resources like water or schools or transits that lead to deterioration or deteriorating infrastructure. And in the case of the drinking water issue in our community, our local government was willing to sell our drinking water in order to pay for infrastructure that needed repair. And that is not the way we want to invest or plan to repair our drinking water infrastructure or any of our infrastructure that way. We don't want to privatize things like that. And so when the commons degrade or are sold off, it's always the marginalized communities that are going to suffer the most. And trust in public systems will erode, and civic engagement will decline, and environmental harm increases. Privatization. So, when local governments can't afford to maintain public resources, privatization follows. And I just cited an example of that, personal example of that, which shifts the control to private interests that are focused on profit rather than the public good. And outdated policies and laws will leave regulatory gaps, loopholes that will be exploited, and weakening protections. And of course, climate change and pollution that threaten our ecosystems and that lead to resource loss, displacement, harm, and especially to vulnerable groups who always face the greatest risk. Here's the good news, though. Reclaiming and protecting the commons lies in civic responsibility, so it's something we have control over. And it's key in order to resist the pressures that I just described. And this includes community-led governance, um, and those are decisions that are about shared resources that are made by the people who are directly impacted by those decisions, policy and legislation that can reverse harmful practices, and establish systems for public funding and access and accountability, education and awareness that inspire civic responsibility and drive grassroots movements. And instead of a corporate top-down approach or a patriarchal approach where decisions are made by a few, the community takes the lead in planning, managing, and caring for the communities that we share. And so that's a good place to start as we get into the essential steps of local organizing, um, because what the commons does is it levels the playing field. However, it only works when we take responsibility and care for it, what's in our control. So, by thinking about how we can organize right where we are at any level of experience that we're at, we can turn that responsibility into action and pass the laws that create lasting change. So, we have lots of varying degrees of experience. We have beginners, some experience, we have professionals and experienced organizers. But I think that we all benefit by thinking these concepts through. There's a lot of steps sometimes that we miss. And if you're just starting, this is great that you're getting sort of a trajectory right from the start. Um, and I think it just helps us all to remember that we're all in this together and building the collective voice, and building momentum is what's needed to pass laws and policies in what is a long game. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. And so we've prepared something for you because learners are, we come in all shapes and sizes. And I'm very visual, so I like looking at things while I'm listening. And so we've created a grassroots advocacy campaign guide in the chat, and it just helps you to follow along. Maybe it'll help you to shape your questions later. It's something you can take away. It's a living document, so we add resources to it as we go along year to year. And if you scroll down to the bottom, there's a lot of great links for helpful documents to give you good information as you proceed with your advocacy. Can you all see it? Did you all get it? See the link? Okay, great. Okay, so most of you probably know this, but it still doesn't hurt to review it because it helps us. We need we want to take a brief look at where laws and policies are made and who makes them, who doesn't, and who interprets them. And so to do this, we'll review the three branches of government, the legislative, the executive, and judicial branches in order to understand how our democracy works. And we're going to start with the legislative branch because they're the ones who write the laws. They're the one who pass the laws. They write the laws with you, right? But they're the ones who are in control of the laws, and so it's important for us to think through that. So on the federal level, our Congress, our U.S. senators and representatives that make laws that affect the whole country. Each state has a Senate and a lower house, the Assembly, the House of Representatives or House of Delegates, and they pass laws for the state. Some areas, like in New York State, we have counties, and so therefore we have county legislators. Sometimes they're called commissions, and they make local laws. And then, of course, what I think is the most important because it's the most accessible are our city, town, village, boroughs. It's where most plastic and environmental policies are created and passed by city councils and township boards or select boards. They're all the officials that you'll work with, and most as advocates, and they are your neighbors. That's always good to remember. You're going to run into them in the coffee shop. They are right there. And it could be you too. You can run for office too, or for a board, committee, or commission and serve in that way. It's very powerful. All right, so then there's the executive branch, the obvious, the federal. In states, we have governors. In counties, we have executives, and our local executives are mayors and supervisors. Um, I should also I mentioned boards, committees, and commissions. So they're regulatory boards. Well, there are regulatory boards. Not all of them are. But they don't make laws, but they use them to guide their decisions. So the laws that are made in your local community are then used by your planning boards or your zoning boards, your zoning code, that sort of thing. So planning boards will handle key local choices like approving or blocking projects such as polluting artificial turf fields. And then there's the judicial branch of government. They're the courts, and they're responsible for interpreting those laws whenever necessary. And here they are. And so it matters because we need to know who has the power to pass or influence the law or policy that we're working on, and what issues matter to them, and what's their background. And so the more we understand about the people that we elect into office, the better we can tailor our message to resonate with what matters most to them. But in a democracy, the public plays the biggest role. We have so much control. And that's why civics is so important to understand because we vote and we advocate, we educate, we participate on boards, committees, and commissions. We run for office. We provide input. We hold officials accountable. They're stewards. That's all they are. They come into office for a short period of time and they oversee and they work, they facilitate. That's really what they should be doing. They're stewards for a short period of time and then they hand the baton. Um, and so communities that organize and advocate effectively will definitely it'll lead to shaping the local and state decisions that include reducing plastic pollution. And this is my city hall, where we pack it quite often. And I like to think of civics as a friendship. I think it's a nice way to imagine civics, and that it takes ongoing care, and that civics are tools that we use in our democracy that require active participation to remain healthy. So where do we begin? To Judith's point, right? We need people. We need to work with people. So we start by building a core team of 2 to 4 committed people in your neighborhood, your family members, your friends, people you don't know. And you each learn the skills of the members in your group and you assign clear roles. What do you like to do? What are you interested in? And you'll find all kinds of things emerge. There might be lawyers. They could be um, social media, have social media expertise, or they're coordinators and they can coordinate meetings. Um, this is a great way to just see what you've got and to leverage what you've got and to make your team effective from the start. You want to set a consistent schedule to meet, so regularly. I mean, we met monthly, and then we would, depending on the issue, we would meet weekly um, in order to share updates and to plan next steps. And so, because the work can be really challenging, it's critical that we also make it fun. So we want to enjoy the people we work with, hosting potlucks, celebrating the small wins. There's many along the way, and connecting as a team. And also important is that we want to organize with people, not just for them. And so it's important to know your community and mapping the neighborhoods, the key neighborhoods and groups to build a diverse team and ensure those who are most impacted are also included to help lead the work. And therefore, letting environmental justice guide our work is really important, and seeking input from those directly affected before taking action ensures that your efforts are protective to vulnerable communities and that can address the inequities in every campaign. And every community has environmental justice and social justice issues, and so it applies to all of us. However, nationwide, in plastic pollution, there's a disproportionate impact to people of color and low-income communities. And so every protective law that you pass in your community or your state helps to improve the lives of environmental justice communities, both near and far, that are dealing on the front line of really terrible chemical companies, cracker facilities. And so that's got to be top of mind in our plastics work. All right, here comes the trajectory. So we find our people and we're sitting together. And the first question, the best question, is to ask yourselves, what is our goal? Everything starts with a clear goal, a strong, a well-defined goal that gives the team direction. It's something you can always come back to remember when you get lost in the woods. And it just keeps everyone focused and makes it easier to plan the steps that are needed to succeed. Um, and so asking your team, and it doesn't have to be a big team at first. It's nice to keep it small and not unwieldy, but it should grow. And in your small team, asking what you want to achieve and how will your group achieve um, your goal, and how will you know when you've succeeded? So this clear goal is the foundation, and it's the foundation for everything else that we do in organizing. And it'll guide our actions, our decisions, and our strategies. A clear, well-defined goal will also help us to see if there's already a group working on the issue that you care about. And if there is a group that's already organizing on plastics in this case, then you should join them and build the movement there. And if not, then it's time to consider taking the next step if you're ready and willing and able to start organizing to build a local movement from the ground up in your community. So next, what is a campaign? So I find it helpful to talk through the definitions, the terminology of some of these key terms because that we use in organizing, because often people have slightly different understandings of words like goals or campaigns or tactics. So getting on the same page makes it easier to communicate clearly and to work together. So now with our goal set, to reduce single-use plastics. I'm just making one up that we can follow along here. We want to reduce single-use plastic consumption, and our aim is to cut plastic bag use by 50% within a few years. All right, so with our goal set, we can identify now what our campaign is. And a campaign is an organized effort to achieve a specific goal, such as passing a law or policy, or raising awareness about an issue. So that's the general definition of a campaign. So what is your campaign? So based on the goal that we're working with, that I just reread here tonight, what could your campaign be? So if your aim is to reduce single-use plastic, say cutting plastic bag use by 50%, as stated over the next few years, one approach could be a campaign to ban single-use plastic bags. And if a bag ban seems like a good fit for your community, you can also look at what's happening at the state level, and consider how your advocacy could connect to broader efforts to feed into what is happening on the state level, which would indicate that there are other communities within the state that are also taking on a ban of single-use plastic bags. So you're part of that movement, which is pretty exciting. And so your work in your community can help to amplify the impact of everyone working on this problem. All right, so now you have your goal, you have your campaign, you want to pass a law. Now you got to pick a strong model bill um, that you know has been successful in your state. And you can check, you know, aside from looking around and seeing what folks might be doing that's relevant in your state, which actually could be very helpful to the language that you end up using. You can also look at the Beyond Plastics bill on our website, and we'll be sharing these resources that can guide your local and state advocacy and help you to design a campaign that's realistic and effective as a first step. So some of you here today from around the nation might live in a state that has preemption laws. Do any of you know if you do or you don't? Just raise your hand. You don't know. Or maybe you don't know what the term means, and that's fine. If you don't have it, why would you know? It's good to know though, because preemption laws, Greg has them. Yeah. They limit what local governments can do in the way of passing their own regulations on single-use plastics. So they're bad. And we're not going to go into all the details tonight on preemption, though it's a great discussion, deep dive conversation for the Beyond Plastics Network when you come. But be aware that these laws can affect your campaign strategy. So if your state has one of these laws, you shouldn't be discouraged because there's a lot you can do. You can focus on education to shift the public opinion. You can run non-legislative campaigns like collecting and sharing data on plastic bag litter and its pollution. You can even speak out against preemption in your state. Okay, so what's the process? This is my favorite. This is what will be on my gravestone. What's the process? So there's a process for passing a local law, an ordinance or policy change, and understanding that process right from the start will allow you to plan your campaign. It'll keep it moving forward and you'll be sure that you don't miss any of the important decision-making moments that are littered all throughout the steps in the process. So here's an example of what that process looks like in motion. So once you've chosen a model bill and understand the local process for passing it, your campaign is going to get underway, and you want to identify a lawmaker who can champion your bill, or a sponsor here, as we call them, someone with the authority to introduce or support it, city council member, a town board member, a county legislator. And you want to work with that sponsor to develop the draft bill language and also to determine the process steps to confirm what they are. The model bill may need to be adapted to fit your local conditions, and ideally that'll occur with input from your group and the community. You want to build support, build out your coalition of partners at this point by bringing together groups that are working on the same issue of concern, who can support your effort, and they can strengthen your campaign by bringing their members into key moments of public comment and that sort of thing, public hearings. And you want to organize step by step. It takes patience, it really does. And you want to follow the process of the bill or the policy or the ordinance from the beginning to the end. And you're going to do that with a clear strategy. You're going to stay organized and you're going to remain flexible because as the process unfolds, changes occur. And you want to work closely with your sponsor, your elected official, and you want to keep them engaged. They want to keep you engaged. We have gratitude for our community members who are volunteers and who take on this very important work. And that's something for the stewards to also be mindful of. And we want to collaborate with them as much as possible in order to get the bill, the ordinance, or the policy passed. So once you know the process, creating a timeline that outlines all those key steps that are needed to pass your bill or policy is a great thing to put on the page and then to work backwards uh, in order to determine when the public needs to take action um, or when you need to contact your lawmakers or others or building um, if not consensus, majority rules with the lawmakers who are also voting to approve the law that's in front of them. So, to help you to build that base of support, this is a great exercise, power mapping. It's a critical step in advocacy that is often overlooked, but it helps you to step back and to look at the full network of influence around the issue that you're working on. And all of this applies to anything, really. We're talking about plastics here, but this applies to anything that you are working on in your community. And the power mapping process allows us to ask questions like who makes the final decision? Who influences that person? Who are the allies, the opponents, the neutral parties, and how much influence does each of them have? So understanding this network helps us to focus our strategies and to build support where it will most matter. It's the most efficient way to get the job done. Building a coalition of partners. We touched upon that a little bit when we saw the bill in motion there. And to me, this is the most rewarding part of the work, which are the relationships that we build in our communities, in our region, and on the state level. And connecting with individuals and local groups bring the expertise and energy that we really need, and the relationships that um, strengthen our work. And a strong, diverse coalition shares the workload and it builds lasting power and ensures solutions meet the needs of everyone affected. So, what are tactics? We have goals, we have campaigns, and now we have tactics. So, tactics are specific actions that you take to achieve your campaign goal, your campaign leading to your goal. And there are literally dozens of them, maybe more. And they include petitions and meetings with decision makers, letters to the editor, messaging on social media. And so learning how to use these tactics um, is a process. It takes time. And often it's one at a time. And so you want to um, you want to really take your time with these things and learn how to use them so that the information it really sticks and you'll be using these things over and over again, you know. And you can continue learning about tactics through the Beyond Plastics network. You don't have to master everything at once. The key is knowing that the tools are available and then building your skills gradually over time. And as I said, once you do it once, you got it. You can apply it over and over again. So don't be overwhelmed by these things. Talking points. So you're going to need strong talking points and solid facts in order to guide your tactics. So you want to identify two or three strong messages that are clear, they're simple, they're factual, and they directly support your campaign goal. Um, Strong factual talking points keep your message consistent and make it easier for others to share and build support. And what's also great is Beyond Plastics has more fact sheets than you can even imagine. If you haven't yet checked them out, you should. And there are those that actually go with our model bills. So you've got everything here that you need. And when you hear the term toolkit, what that means, and I'll use the film as a case in point because Judith mentioned it, is that we put everything in one page for you, make it really simple so that you have everything. You have your screening information, you have your FAQ, etc. Sorry, I got something in my eye. And so it is the same for our model bills, and our fact sheets are all part of that. All right, so take it from me, don't be deterred by opposition or setbacks. So, whether it's industry pushback or it's political resistance or it's just the slow pace of things or there are internal issues, obstacles are really also part of the process. And challenges are opportunities, and they often lead to the most creative and impactful and out of the box solutions. So we should embrace them, embrace the challenges, for there's always opportunity. And advocacy is a long game, as I mentioned earlier, and it works best when it's grounded in mutual respect and shared responsibility. And so, best practice to listen to one another and move forward together to grow support, and to regularly discuss what's working and what's not and why, and being kind and treating each other with respect. That starts with ourselves, doesn't it? And addressing problems as best as you can as soon as they arise. Letting problems fester or grow within your team can lead to resentment and contempt. And acknowledging emotions that are tied to environmental loss. Um, Without that acknowledgement of our feelings, anger is going to build. And I find that grieving is a part of slowness, and it deepens our empathy and we organize them with purpose. It doesn't mean that we're not fierce. Being kind, you can still be fierce. Um, and the work is a marathon, not a sprint, as they say. So taking care of your people and yourself and staying in it for the long haul is really important. And finally, it's we, not me. That's a great phrase. Put it on a post-it. It's helpful. So that's a trajectory and it's broad and it's really not easy to make it simple, but we're working on it. And I hope that that's been really helpful for you to think about. It's a lot to think about, but it's also very practical, very pragmatic. It makes sense when you stop and think about it. And you can wrap your mind around what the steps are. And they are the same over and over and over again. The people change, the issue changes, the dynamic changes, but the process is pretty standard. And so, what we're going to do next, which I'm excited about, is to introduce you to Suzette Munley, for the third time as our National Community Engagement Director, because I can't say it enough. Right, Suzette? Um, and Suzette is the visionary behind the Beyond Plastics Network. I gotta say, it's such a pleasure to have a team member like Suzette. And the network hosts a monthly call. It's all remote. It's a space where we can apply all of this knowledge. We can break it down into sections and we can really dig into what's a petition? How do we do a petition? All sorts of things with folks from across the country and to get the support that you need to succeed on your change maker journey. All right. So now I hope it's really clear. We're saying it. We're saying the quiet part out loud, that we can't recycle our way out of this crisis, right? And it's the plastics industry that's promoted recycling as a solution to the plastic crisis, much like the bottled water industry promotes the perception that tap water is unsafe. But as we've learned today, the reality is not that. It's the opposite of that. And we can't recycle our way out of this, out of the plastic crisis. But we can organize to pass laws and bring about change that way. Um, Real change comes, cultural shifts, requires a movement, but it also requires good, up-to-date laws and policies to reduce plastic production, to end plastic production. And so the movement that we're building together to organize, to pass laws and policies to stop plastic pollution at its source is wholly possible. We witness it every day. And when we work together, we're going to build the momentum that we need that unites our communities and creates the change that this moment demands. I love this quote. Great things are done by a series of small things brought together. That's exactly right. That's the process. And so I've hoped that you've enjoyed. This is a lot of speak, but I hope that it was clear and it was helpful to you. And now we're happy to spend a little time to speak with you and to take some questions if you have them, or just do a little stretch. That was a lot. Yeah, stretching. Candace, woo! Love it. Water. I'm so glad to be with you. I wish we were at my house or on the bonfire. I don't know, but here we are. So that was a little pause to let you take a break and think. So I'm going to stop talking now.
I have I have a question.
Yeah, Dawn.
I'm anxious to get important sharing points to educate people. I will talk to anybody. And so when I've been out, I just start telling them stuff I know and I just expound, but people are very concerned, very interested. And I feel like education of the public is so important. I often wish I had like a little card to give all the main points so they can take it with them, instead of trying to remember what I'm saying. Or
Yeah,
has anyone done something like that, like a postcard size? You
with
know,
key points. Well, here's
yeah.
so I bet I uh we have so many versions of this in all different ways, in all different, sorts of ways. One suggestion I can make to you, I just shared this brand new Plastics 101 FAQ that we just completed that really it's all up to date. And here's another thing that I'm really digging about our materials is that they're living, which means we can keep them updated, which means that every time you turn to it, you know it's completely up to date. With citations, this is a great document because it has a lot of the key points that we're talking about in the United States. And if you scroll down, I'll just share my screen because I'm so excited about this tool for communities. There's all the citations as well. And so, one suggestion is to look at materials like this and determine what are the things that you find your conversation, what are people asking you? And make your own card and find the answers in our materials or join the network. And Suzette and I are there every month. And so are dozens of organizers where we can get into if there are questions that you don't have answers to or questions that we don't have answers to. It's a place that we can really kind of get into it. So I hope that that document is helpful to you and circle back around if you have more questions. Suzette, do you have anything to add?
I think we could put the pocket guide in the chat if I can find it in time. Yeah,
I
I think
I
that
can get it. I'll grab it.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful for everyone because it has, first of all, our book, if you are aware that Judith and Adam Mahoney and the team wrote a book, The Problem with Plastic. That has a ton of information, all with citations, but this pocket guide also has that as well, so that you can pull the information with the citations. And like Rebecca said, it'll continue to stay updated. So, very helpful tool.
Yeah, let me just, I just put it in the chat, but let me show you something. Let me show you the cheat sheet here. So in the Plastics 101, when you scroll down to the bottom and you get all this richness here, here's the link. Here it is. Oh, wait. I know, I have the wrong one. In your campaign guide that we gave you earlier, if you scroll down, I guess we should also put it in the, we'll add it to the 101, but it's also here. If you scroll to the bottom, the pocket guide is right here. Our report on recycling is right here. The fact sheet that I just shared with you is right there. So what we're trying to do is compile it all in one place so that you, and now you have two places, I realize. But remember, I would use this campaign sheet as your guide, where you can always, I'd bookmark it. And then you can always come and get the links. And if there's something missing from it, we can add it. And that way you always know where to get information. So, but we also just shared it in the chat. Yeah, Roseanne.
First of all, Rebecca, I just want to say you did such a lovely job. So
Oh,
thank you. Your kindness and your expertise is coming through. So thank
thank you very much. Good. Glad.
you. And my question is, like we can't recycle our way out of this, saying the quiet part out loud. I really love that. I'm located in the Bay Area of California, and um, compostable plastics is like a thing that we're fighting. I'm part of Plastic Free Marin, and it's we're fighting it in that, what we understand thus far is that it's really not quite the full story. They're not fully compostable at all, especially in our municipality. And I know you have some information on compostable plastics, but can we say the same thing? Like we can't compost our way out of this, because I feel like it's a tactic the plastics industry is using to kind of subvert and go on the other in a back another door and confuse people. And the confusion here locally is off the charts.
Yep.
So, um,
I mean, Suzette, what do you think about that?
I think you can safely say we cannot compost our way out of this. At this point, based on the products that are on the market, most of them still use chemicals, and a lot of them cannot be composted in backyard composting or services. They need industrial composting, which the majority of the public does not have. So, yeah, I think where we are today, that's a safe thing to say.
Yeah, and thanks for your advocacy, Roseanne. Uh, yeah, I think we're all looking for a silver bullet, and you know, it is to stop using plastic and then to pass laws. We've got to really kind of get that together. And in our community here in Ulster County, we're pushing for countywide composting, but of organics. That's the focus. And removing organics from the waste stream to get to zero waste hierarchy. Um, and it's not easy. It's not easy to get our elected officials countywide to do that, but that's what many people are working on the compost front. But anyway, thank you.
I'm just
Sarah?
going to add one quick
Oh,
comment.
sure. Yeah,
It The objective that we're going for is not to switch out one single-use product for another single-use product.
yeah.
We advocate for reusable. So even when we talk about bag bans, we're not trying to switch from plastic bags to paper bags. It's reusable bags, things that we can reuse over and over and then truly recycle. So it's really about how do we build the reusable infrastructure that we need to make it easy for people to use something other than a single-use item.
Right. And the sad reality is that even plastics, reusing plastics over and over again, we all know that we're being exposed to all kinds of things that way, but its ultimate end game is a landfill. That's where it's going to go. It's going to end up in a landfill. It's going to end up being incinerated. That's its trajectory. So that's not a solution either. We have to stop that. So Sarah?
Did you mean me?
Oh, I saw Sarah Diaz's hand up. Did you
Oh,
have your hand? I'm sorry if I'm out of order
it's
here.
okay. She should go ahead.
Okay. Thanks for your patience there.
Rebecca and Suzette, thank you so much for bringing me into this space and your presentation. I appreciated that. I'm wondering if anyone else is working on elimination of plastic sporks in schools. I would definitely like to network with any of you that are doing that. And also, if you could direct me to any resources that you have particularly targeted towards helping middle and high school students carry this message and deliver it to school boards.
You know what? When we get our sea legs, the next training we're going to build is for youth. And that's really going to happen.
I would
And
like to be a part of that.
that's great. And you know, that's next. But there are groups that are doing that work and doing it very well. If you want to put your email in the chat, there might be people here who have some information for you. We encourage you to connect with one another. And Suzette, do you have anything to also add to that?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw cafeteria culture in the chat, their website. So take a look there. And then there's also one word I can't talk and copy and paste in the chat at the same time. So when we're done, I'll put in there Upstream Solutions. Also has a lot of case studies on switching to reusables, and they do have restaurants and schools on their case studies, which help advocate for the reduced expense over time and what that looks like and people that have actually done it. So that information may help you. So I'll put that in there in a minute as well.
Yes, I'm familiar with both of those organizations. Thank you for that.
Yeah, yeah.
Great. Sarah Boudreau.
Yeah. Thank you. Hi. And thank you both, all of you you did a great job. And you've gotten me excited about, trying to do something about this. And
Civics.
I'm yes. Um, and Falmouth, Maine is a small town, and I've been working with a few other people, and we actually, let's see, it was in 2024, I believe, in the fall, we had a forum, and I don't know if you've read Matt Simon's book, A Poison Like No Other. It's an amazing book, but he was our keynote speaker, and he zoomed in from California. But anyway, one of the things that I was just reading about at the University of Maine was that they are trying to work on, and this is for me, one of the problems about single-use plastics is that there's not an alternative product, to have, especially for supermarkets and things like that. What are they going to display all this stuff in that's already pre-made? But bringing your own container is a possibility. But also, I was just going to mention that I read that the University of Maine is working on using mushrooms as for alternative. I'm not exactly sure what they're doing with it, but a long time ago, I saw a show on public television about a company called Notpla. Have you ever heard of them? They're in
No,
London, England, and they were using seaweed
this
and
as I can see.
it was really fascinating. And they I think their uh, website is notpla.com or something. But I do think that one of the problems for all of us as consumers is that we need alternatives, for, handling things. And it's tough. I mean, we have a farm, and we have to sell our, you know, salad greens, for example, in plastic bags because we have no other way of doing it. because we can't do it where people can just stick their hands in and, do it that way. And then what would they put them in and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I
But
think,
Sarah, sorry to interject, but
oh,
that is a major problem. But what I see happening in many counties in where I am in New York State is that they're they struggle because they're trying to find and build support for the kinds of laws that would enforcement for new types of materials for farms and small business that's affordable that are, I don't know if they're subsidized, but I don't know if you've reached out to, one of your local officials to start a conversation about that very thing. It doesn't hurt to start talking about it. And if there are other folks like you in Maine, I'm a Mainer too,
I heard you say that.
that will join you, to have a roundtable with an elected official with a couple of others who are concerned and want to stop using plastics for their goods. I mean, you could start, why not? Get
That's a great idea.
get
Yeah.
it going.
Thank
It's
you.
possible. Yeah, you're totally in control here. That's
Right.
what I
And
want
I
to.
have to say it's embarrassing as working because I'm so pro, environmental, and yet, you know, it, we sell annuals and perennials, and we use plastic containers for everything. It's scary to me.
Yeah,
So I
it
think that,
is. You can start that conversation though.
yeah,
And I know it's hard too because everybody's working but this is where we are. You can just start. You don't have to think about the long-term commitment. Just start with a conversation with elected
right,
officials and see what's possible and bring
right.
folks in. And
That's,
I just want to I'm so sorry to cut folks off. I want to try to get, if we could just ask a question and move through so I can get to all of you, because Suzette also has some information to share. And I just want to make sure that she does that and we don't go too late for people. I know it's late. So, Brad?
Hi, thanks, Janet. A film screening and the panelists afterwards, who would be the likely candidates to be on that panel, and what's the best way to approach those folks to encourage them to participate?
Sure. Well, Beyond Plastics has a Speakers Bureau program, and it's something I run, actually. And we're building out speakers right now. If anybody is interested in speaking, we onboard you, we give you all the materials. You're part of a Speakers Bureau network. You have the local groups, and Suzette will talk more about it, and we can talk more about speakers later. It is one arm of the octopus of the network, and it's part of education. And so we have a growing network. We have about 22 speakers in the nation. I need hundreds. I need speakers in every state, um, and youth too. So if you're interested in booking a speaker, if there's one nearby, we can see if we can match you with them. Or if it's virtual, they can Zoom in, that sort of thing. Um, that's a resource of Beyond Plastics. But I don't know, Suzette, do you have ideas for how to bring speakers into the plastics film for
Yeah,
folks?
so I think you can think about a variety of people. If you have local elected officials that are interested in reducing waste or reducing plastic in their community, you could certainly have them on the panel. If you have connections with any medical professionals, whether it's doctors, nurses, or anyone in the field that, again, can kind of speak to the impacts on health and body, because that's a big focus of the film. If you have other people that are just working on environmental issues and are interested in plastic, they could be on a panel. You only need two people. And we also, in our toolkit that I'll put in the chat in a little bit, we have a whole guide of discussion questions and we have facts listed on a sheet. So we can equip you with information that you could facilitate your own Q&A and have the facts at your fingertips to give their responses. The whole idea of the panel discussion is to get people to come out together so that you can then work together and say, how do we want to take action in our community? So trying to get them off the couch in their home watching Netflix to meet other people like-minded that want to go out and actually take some action. So that's the point.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
You're
Great.
welcome.
Anne.
Thank you. Thanks for all the information tonight. My question is about, is there somebody from Beyond Plastics or another organization that has a seat at the table at HHS and the STOMP program that's now been introduced?
I don't know the answer to that. Do you?
I don't know either.
Why don't you send us an email? We can check that out and see and get back to you. When I send the materials, that's a good question. Thank you. Dawn. Wait, Dawn, did you go? Have you gone? No, it's okay. I just think, do you mind if I get others who haven't yet? Did you go? Is my memory right? Okay. Laura?
Hi. I was just wondering whether or not, I know we can't recycle our way out of this, but do you know anything about the organization called Ridwell and that the work they're doing? And do you support that?
No.
No.
No. In fact, we have a new fact sheet on them.
Okay.
Ridwell, TerraCycle, those it's greenwashing, and it's really sad because people are spending money to send their stuff to a you might as well throw it in the garbage. It's all going to an incinerator or landfill. They can't
So
recycle.
they're not actually recycling that stuff.
They can't.
Hmm.
They can't. And it's very exciting for people. And that's why
Yeah.
we ended up doing
No, it sounds very promising. That's why I wondered.
I know, I know. Let me grab it real quick.
Rebecca, I'll grab it.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
share it. I'm sorry to break that news, but that's
Well, that's why I asked.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking the question. Yep. Maureen, is that how you pronounce your name? Yeah. Oh, I lost you in the chat. Oh, you're on mute. It's okay. While you're working on that, let's go to Dawn. Work on your
Yay! So um, do you keep a list of what people are reporting as alternatives? I know when I flew recently on a trip with Delta overseas, I think it might have been because of we were going to Europe that they had to do this, but our utensils were bamboo. Um, Even the bottles of water in our hotel were in those aluminum uh, packaging that could, and they told us reuse it, go down to their filter thing and reuse it. So there was this big push, and they also the stewardesses were collecting the paper cups and things. They weren't just throwing it in a bag; they were collecting it like they were going to put it in to recycle it or something. But so that's one question. Do you have like a list of alternatives? Because I feel like if I go to people and say, can you stop using these clamshells or can you stop doing this? What alternative is there to offer them? What kind of vendors are out there to help them replace these things? Um,
Suzette, do you have something to share on that subject?
Yeah, so I will say that we don't recommend other packaging products. We don't have the capacity to test all the new things on the market to be able to make a recommendation. With that said, our colleague in California came across this amazing guide that a city in California put together as they were trying to transition away from single-use plastic. So give me a moment and I will find that in my list of things and I'll put it in the chat. And maybe if Rebecca wants, she could also put it in the follow-up email. But it was probably the most comprehensive and well-researched guide that we have all seen, but we just have to be careful. We're not endorsing any particular company or product. We know that the challenge out there is what do I replace the plastic with? The company that a couple people have talked about in the chat, Ecovative, does have pretty amazing packages made out of mycelium. NOPLA, which was mentioned earlier, is very promising. Judith actually met the founders of that organization and feels like it's the real deal, which is always the question we have. Um, so there are multiple out there, but the problem is nothing has scaled to the point that it is widely available and cost effective for everyone. There is a Starbucks in, I believe it's Berkeley, that has changed out their lids on their coffee with fiber-based material. So I will look for that as well and drop that in the chat. And here's kind of the point. They only do it where they're forced to do it. It's not like they've rolled it out across the country in every Starbucks, which we would all hope they would do. So there are alternatives out there. Still, we're going to swing towards reuse, whether that's glass, aluminum, stainless. That would be the ideal. I put in the chat earlier to someone that was looking to have a senior community switch over. There's a company called Useful that is all about non-plastic reusable containers that people can use in different closed community settings and schools. They do a ton of work with schools. So there are things out there, it's just nothing is at scale.
Thank you. All right, last question. Maureen, we're going to get to you. I can't see
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your book and your presentation.
All right,
Really
great.
love them both.
Yeah.
So, we've been trying to persuade our local school to switch from plasticware to either stainless steel or have kids bring their own tableware and hopefully reuse it. And we were told, so here's my question. We were told that there is a federal law that prevents requiring kids from bringing their own reusable tableware. Because we were hoping to just add it as a school supply, like other things kids are required to bring. Are you aware of any law? And if so, could you give me a cite to it, please?
Hmm. I'm not offhand, but we can look and see what we've got. And Suzette?
Sorry, I was looking for a report, so I
Oh,
wasn't listening to the question. What was the question?
well, Maureen's looking for laws that exist. Maureen, if I understood you, for youth
Well,
to,
the school district has said they will not require or that they cannot require
I
kids
see.
to bring reusable tableware because there's a federal law prohibiting it. And I
Mhm.
can't find it. I was just wondering if you're aware of it.
You mean kids bringing it from home as opposed to the school providing the flatware in the school?
Right, because our school's using single-use plastics.
Right. I have not heard of that. I've never heard of that federal law. We could certainly do some research, but I'm not aware of any.
Okay,
Yeah, what
thank
we wish is that schools would put dishwashers back in and have, I mean, that would be a lot easier actually. It would seem to me just practically um to be
cheaper.
advocating for. Yeah.
I hear you.
Uh,
What you use to go out in a
Thanks,
restaurant,
Maureen.
right?
Yeah. What's that? Sorry?
Well, it's what you use to go out in a restaurant. So why can't they have, I'm sure that's what they had before. When I was a kid, I think I ate with
Yeah,
a metal fork and spoon in elementary school.
totally. Nope. And dishwashers. That's what we need to go back to for sure. All right, last question, and then Suzette's gonna come on and I'm sorry, we have more questions too at the end. So go ahead, Greg. Thank you for all your questions.
Oh, thanks. I guess it's yeah, I want to do something so bad, but because the state has that preemptive ban, and you say, well, you shouldn't let it get to you. What I mean, it's just like, what do I do now? And I was looking on the internet. There are a few cities that have tried to implement plastic bag bans, but they're challenged.
What state are you
So,
in, Greg? What state?
the wonderful state of Florida.
Mm,
Okay,
Oh,
I have can can I jump in here real
of
quick?
course, please.
Let me I'm gonna put this in the chat. I don't know how close you are to Miami,
Two
but
hours, close
okay,
enough.
but so I put in the chat plastic free 305. So this is a perfect example of what you can do in a preemption state. It's basically an opt-in program. So the state or the city of Miami isn't telling anyone that anything is banned. These restaurants and businesses and organizations are opting into a program to reduce their single-use plastic.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
they have amazing participation. They have marketing that shows the people that are a part of this community, and it just continues to grow and grow. We work with affiliates that work on this program that partner with students and schools to get the students educated on the problems with plastic, and then they go out and speak to organizations. They've even spoken to elected officials. And so this has been very successful, so successful that affiliate of ours in Alaska is replicating the program called Alaska 907 or
Oh,
Plastic Free 907. So there are definitely very successful campaigns that are being done in preemption states. The only difference is they're opting in and they're invitation based versus legal banning.
right. Sure, sure. Okay, great. That's excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You. Um, Candace, did you have your hand raised for a while and we not gotten to you before we switch over to you good?
Oh, no, it's just there was a presentation that Beyond Plastics had about two companies, one dealing with colleges and elementary schools, that they were doing stainless silverware and cups, bowls, plates, and the main thing was is that they proved that over time it was less expensive than having plastics or styrofoam, and it's something to look into that you had it as one of your presentations you could watch.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we do so many webinars,
Mm-hmm.
lot going on. Thank you for that. Okay, I'm going to now introduce Suzette to you all. I'm just going to actually launch Suzette right in for the sake of time. Um, Suzette, I hope I've done you justice introducing you to illustrate the gratitude that we all have for the work that you do.
Well,
As
thank
you
you.
keep work, overdoing it as usual. But hey,
All
we're
right, I'm gonna try and be swift here and be conscious of the time. But yes, to answer someone's questions, we will uh, make sure we're sharing the links afterwards. So I'll just save the chat and we'll make sure we get all that information in there. So, kind of quickly, I'm just going to share my journey as an affiliate. So, what I was doing prior to joining Beyond Plastic staff, and it's really just to provide you an example of one way you can get involved. So, I started as a member of the Philadelphia Southeast PA chapter of the Climate Reality Project, and I spearheaded that organization to become an affiliate of Beyond Plastics. And my goal was to get a local law passed that would ban single-use plastic bags, polystyrene, and then make straws available upon request. So it was during a climate reality chapter meeting, and I was introducing our new affiliation with Beyond Plastics. And an attendee reached out to me during the meeting and said, "Hey, you really need to meet these people over here at Reduce Plastics PA." And it was a coalition of environmental advisory council members from over 30 townships in my county working to reduce plastic waste through local legislation. So this was back in 2022. So I joined forces with them to bridge the relationship between my township's EAC and the coalition. And a huge bonus was that the coalition had a shared resource hub. They had FAQs, sample ordinances, surveys, all sorts of things. So there was no need to reinvent the wheel. And although in the past my township's EAC had previously struggled to pass a plastic bag ban, I had just finished completing Judith Enk's plastic pollution course at Bennington, and I had trained to be a volunteer speaker, the program that Rebecca runs now. So, with my EAC, we were able to revitalize our local efforts and then re engage our commissioners on plastic reduction. So my township's EAC members, they already knew the most important pressure point for passing the ban was the town board of commissioners, and they knew who was in support of the ban and who was opposed. So on Earth Day, we created some pressure by assembling a table on plastic pollution at the local fair, which is all coming up, Earth Day, right? And inviting state and federal representatives to attend. So, as an example, here are two display items, kind of down and dirty. On the left, we show plastic pollution that was gathered along a 1 mile section of a trail along a local creek. And on the right, we created a QR code with a pre-formatted email that went to the township manager. So when you scan the QR code, it populated a few sentences supporting reducing plastic pollution in the township and supporting a plastic bag ban. And these emails made a huge difference during the hearing with our commissioners that the township manager had heard from so many people supporting the ban. So we were also fortunate to have our state senator, Maria Collette, and Congresswoman Madeline Dean attend the fair, and they supported the ban. And then, despite the advice to avoid engaging with a commissioner who opposed the plastic bag ban, I thought he was precisely the person that I should speak to. So I initiated a conversation with him. He agreed to grant me 10 minutes at the next board meeting to present the case against single-use plastics. So that opportunity allowed me to directly address their concerns and then advocate for meaningful change. So in May of 2023, I presented a PowerPoint to our Board of Commissioners advocating for single-use plastic bag ban, and we successfully passed it in July. So I just want to be clear, when I started, I was completely unfamiliar with township governance. I didn't know what an EAC was, or if my township had one, or whether my passion and interest would be valuable or yield really any tangible results. So my Environmental Advisory Council had previously laid the groundwork for this legislation, but they really felt disheartened by their lack of progress. So by partnering with them and then leveraging resources from Beyond Plastics and the coalition, such as toolkits and shared experiences, I helped reignite the initiative and then saw it through to completion. So I just want to finish this piece by connecting the dots. So my advocacy journey began by affiliating an organization with Beyond Plastics that I was already a part of. This affiliation opened doors to a network of individuals who are passionate about combating plastic pollution. So then I became a volunteer speaker for Beyond Plastics, and I connected with Reduce Plastics PA Coalition and Penn Environment, both organizations that are dedicated to passing single-use plastic bag bans in Pennsylvania. So the point here is find people who are already organizing around the issue. So as of now, we have 40 municipalities in Pennsylvania that have passed bans. So about 20% of the population are covered by bans. Early 2025, I began leading the Plastic and Waste Reduction Group for Southeast PA Sierra Club, really looking to unite volunteers and supporters so we could drive coordinated efforts. So really trying to pull the efforts of all these groups together to pass local legislation and then address plastic pollution. So hopefully this illustrates how joining the Beyond Plastics Network can empower all of you to build strong coalitions and drive impactful action in your community. And now I'm leading our local groups and affiliates program for Beyond Plastics, so you never really know where this journey will take you. So many of you might be asking yourselves, so how do I start to take action? So I'd like to introduce you to the Beyond Plastics Network. So our network emphasizes the power of connection across 5 volunteer groups. And this framework is grounded in ongoing collaboration where information, strategy, and energy flow between all groups. So here's what the network looks like. 5 volunteer groups include local groups, affiliates, advocates and organizers, community partners, and the Speakers Bureau. So it's designed as an on-ramp to action, so making it easy for you to get involved in ways that match your interest, your skills, and your capacity. So volunteers can move across roles. You might start as a speaker or an advocate, and then if you're ready to take on more, you could grow into a local group leader or a policy organizer. So I'm going to touch really briefly on each one. We'll start with local groups and affiliates, which I manage. We have 40 local groups across the country. Every group is identified by their town or city. A Beyond Plastics local group is you and at least two people who want to end plastic pollution where you live. So you can work with friends, colleagues, neighbors, and we can also help you with outreach to find members to join your group. You'll receive training and support. You'll stay connected with our anti-plastic pollution activists nationwide. We offer helpful resources like a Zoom account. We have toolkits, so there's no need to reinvent the wheel. And then we facilitate monthly meetings, as Rebecca had mentioned, and we have ongoing educational opportunities. So I love to show this slide. This is Eileen Ryan, who leads our local group Beyond Plastics Greater Boston. She's a total rock star. Here she's tabling at a theater in 2025. And I think this is a great picture with lots of good ideas here for tabling, since we all know Earth Day is coming up. To make it official, you need one person forming a local group to complete our grassroots training, which you all are doing right now. You agree with our purpose, our principles, and core messages, as well as our policy positions. Then you fill out this form on our website. We'll schedule time to meet and talk through next steps. We have 152 affiliates. On the right is some of the logos of our affiliates across the country. An affiliate group is an existing organization that you are a part of that's aligned with our goal to end plastic pollution, and they can make it a priority. They can have other priorities and campaigns as well. You remain independent and self-directed, and you agree with our purpose, principles, core messages, and our policy positions. So if you lead a nonprofit group working on plastics, or maybe you want to start a plastic reduction committee within your organization, you simply fill out this form on our website to affiliate. Taking our grassroots training is not required to affiliate, but we thank all of you for being here tonight. Once you fill out the form, I'll reply with your logos, get you on our map, and then I'll plug you into all of our resources. So I just want to note, while we really support and applaud businesses that are taking the lead to reduce plastics, we're bound to keep our affiliates limited to nonprofit organizations. So if you're the proprietor of a business, earlier I put the link in the chat for Upstream Solutions. I'll do so as well when I'm finished. They provide a lot of resources and connections for reuse companies across the United States. The third way to join the network is as an independent advocate or organizer. So these are all individuals who are not part of a formal local group or affiliate, and they have a meaningful place in the network. This is a photo of advocates and organizers working hard to get the Packaging Reduction Recycling Infrastructure Act passed in New York State. So they are key to building the movement. Next, we have volunteer speakers who play a key role in educating the public, policymakers, and organizations about the harms of plastic pollution and the need for systemic change. So we provide speakers with peer-reviewed materials so they can present confidently on plastic pollution and counter industry misinformation. As I mentioned earlier, this is how I got started, and it really helped me tremendously when I presented to my board of commissioners to be able to pass a bag ban. We currently have 24 volunteer speakers. We know that Rebecca leads this amazing program. So let's help her reach her goal in 2026 to get that number up over 100. I will put a link in the chat to a forum where you can express your interest. And then lastly, community partners. These are organizations that are working on, supporting, or exploring ways to reduce plastic pollution in their communities. So we focus on identifying how our work intersects, whether it's water, air, soil, or other environmental issues, and then finding those connection points so we can collaborate and mobilize together. So many of our partners work on a wide range of issues in addition to plastics. So they are partners that do not formally affiliate with us. As we said earlier, we provide monthly meetings. Our meeting in April is tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. So if you want to hang out with Rebecca and I again, that's where we'll be. There is a link where you have to register for the meeting each month. It is always the second Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So please join us and you can kind of see what they're all about. And then as we wrap up, I just want to invite all of you to our next webinar on May 7th at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's about the film Plastic Detox. The film features 6 couples with unexplained infertility who reduce their plastic exposure to improve their chances of conceiving. It's on Netflix. As you've heard, we're encouraging everyone to hold film screenings and panel discussions afterwards. It's a great way to build local support and find people interested in doing this work. I will drop the toolkit in the chat. And I think I left us with 4 minutes for questions. If you have questions, please reach out to me. And thanks for being here. Thanks, Rebecca.
Thanks, Suzette. Before we get into final questions, I think what I'll just do is share our last couple of slides, just so I don't have to pull them back up again. As you know, Beyond Plastics has a new book, The Problem with Plastics and How to Save Ourselves and Our Planet Before It's Too Late. That was published in December of last year, and that's out. And you can find this book at a local bookstore near you. You can purchase it through the New Press, the publisher, or any bookseller that is not harmful. This is our Plastics 101, which we shared earlier. And we're just kind of giving it a little plug here, and we hope that you find it helpful. And thank you for your support. This is a free training, but if you are so inclined or able to make any size donation to Beyond Plastics to keep us going, we deeply appreciate that consideration. And that's it. So let's take a few more questions if we can. Sorry to rush at the end, but we want to make sure you get out on time here. It's late, I realize. So, and thank you, Suzette. Any questions about the network or about tomorrow night? Tomorrow night we're doing a little presentation on the Speakers Bureau. Going to explain that program a little bit. That should be fun. Hopefully some of our speakers will be there. Bruce?
I didn't have a question, but I just wanted to comment on that QR code thing. I thought it was brilliant. And I also agree with talking to or not necessarily talking to the opposition, but at least thoroughly understanding where they're coming from so you can counteract their arguments. So anyway, I thought that was a great idea.
Thank you. You know, it's kind of funny. We had to talk to him because he held the power. And so, you know, even though he's like, I'll give you 10 minutes, that's all we needed was 10 minutes. And there was a lot of support. And I will say the QR code, because it was literally like a 30, 20-second thing that people at the Earth Day Fair could do, we were just able to get so many people to send it right there on the spot. We would never have gotten that any other way.
Thanks, Bruce. Brad?
I thanks. The Speakers Bureau. So are those speakers, are they assigned a geographic territory to cover for meetings? And
Yeah.
is it voluntary? Are you reaching out to organizations to request speaking, or is it vice versa that people reach out to you to speak at their organization?
So both things occur. Well, the latter definitely occurs. When a new speaker comes on board, we give you the slide deck, the script, and that FAQ that you have for Plastics 101 is really meant to anticipate questions for the speaker to be able to engage and answer questions to the best of their ability. And what we're asking is that folks who come on board give that Plastics 101 presentation at least 4 times that year at their local library or at the garden club or at the PTA, in the community, in the community, in the region, wherever you are comfortable practicing and going, um, to share the presentation, and then most importantly, to get people to take an action. And so, wherever you are, we're also working on action slides, so we can hopefully plug people into whatever is happening right in their area.
Mhm.
And if not, then they can come through the network too. This is where we're building the movement virtually, but to make these connections. So, as a lot of our new speakers are really, they enjoy speaking or they have more experience. They're not new speakers. And so we also have, if you look at beyondplastics.org/speakers bureau, I think is the link is in here. There's a forum, and any organization that needs a speaker will reach out, and I'll receive those requests and try to match them to someone in their local area. So it's all sort of happening at the same time. And if a new speaker is comfortable and says, "Yes, I'd like to, you know, be on the line in case something comes in my area," then I can match you. But it's really it's a gentle process. You learn as you do the work.
Mhm.
And each month we have a little speakers. We're starting a speakers room, and speakers will find buddies, speaker buddies, where they can practice and work. So just ways to help people build their confidence to speak and help us to educate. So that's the gist.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, hope to see you.
Okay, thanks.
Um, Roseanne?
Thank you. Suzette, it was really, again, I want to second, it was great to hear your personal journey. And also, um, the QR code was genius. And I'm curious for you and Rebecca, are there any, because to get 10 minutes with somebody who's a decision maker, you have to have your talking points really like sharp and the way to approach them like really succinct and effective. So is there anything in the materials that you've so thoughtfully collected for us that are those kinds of like ways or strategies if you do have a decision maker or you have an opportunity to get up at a city council meeting or something of things that to say that are most impactful? Because I know some people really struggle with how to do that, how to deliver that.
Hmm.
I'll just speak from my experience. We had the benefit of others in our area who were trying to pass bans as well. And the people that had success, the coalition had everyone's PowerPoint decks on their web, like on this shared site that we all use. So we were able to take and learn from others that gave presentations that worked and didn't work and pull the best slides. Like we made them very personal. Like people had talked to the folks that ran like the waste management and how plastic bags got stuck in the machines and then it cost them money to bring in people to clear the bags out of the machines and what that cost. So we just started to replicate what we found was working and what resonated with the town's commissioners. So I think it's individual for each community what the concerns are. Since my EAC had been working on it for a while, I got to kind of pick their brain about what were they being asked, what were their concerns, so that we could kind of tailor that PowerPoint to address those. So I would just say the more information you can get about the people that are either concerned about doing it or don't have all the information, that's really helpful. So I don't know if that completely answers your question, but.
Yeah, and also I think that power mapping that we discussed, thinking about who the decision makers are, what they care about, who do they listen to, is really informative. Some legislators are going to respond to the economics of something. Some are going to respond to the environmental health, public health concerns. Some want to hear the whole ball of wax. And so I'm thinking about what you're saying in terms of like a public comment or public hearing and you get 3 minutes to devise, your talking points to whomever it is. Sometimes it's broad, sometimes it's individual, but I mean, that's a great exercise too. That's a great thing we could talk about at some point. I mean, it's only 12 months in the year, but it's a re so there's 12 meetings or maybe there's 11 or something, but that would be a good exercise. Thanks, Roseanne. So last question. Um, we also had a PFAS water contamination in our area. Okay. Sorry, Suzette just added something in the chat. Um, Dawn, last question.
Hi. So I'm wondering, how long is the presentation that the Speakers Bureau people give?
Yeah, it's about 20 minutes, I would say, depending on how fast or slow you deliver it. It's a plastics 101. And, we'll probably have new ones from year to year, depending on the science. In fact, some of my slides that you saw tonight are from the Plastics 101 slide deck. We have a great science director who's really helping us to pull all this together. Um, So, yeah, and it's 20 minutes or so and it's really user friendly, you know? It's made in a way that anybody could give it, um, for the most part. So, all right, well, we're a little over, and thanks so much for staying with us for the whole time. We really, as always, enjoyed your time and being with you. And we will follow up with all the materials and in the coming days, and we really hope to see you again on Zoom, but in our virtual call tomorrow night, and if not, check in another month, we'll be there. And we hope that you all take good care of yourselves and one another, and we will see you in the field. All
Bye,
right, good night,
everyone.
everybody.
Bye
Take
bye.
care.